He told me that he'd set the whole thing up, that he'd paid someone who looked enough like me to rob that store wearing a jacket with my high school logo on it, that he'd planted evidence in my car, that he'd made sure the witnesses got a clear look at the robbery, enough to identify the general description that matched me, that he'd called in an anonymous tip about where I'd be that night. He told me all of this through that plexiglass divider while I sat there feeling like I was having an out-of-body experience. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be my father. But it was. He said if I fought the charges, he'd testify against me. He'd say I'd been acting strange, that he'd found the gun hidden in my room, that I'd been talking about needing money. He said Caroline would back him up. He said they had enough evidence that I'd be convicted anyway, but if I fought it, I'd get a much longer sentence. If I pled guilty, took a deal, I'd be out in 3 to 5 years with good behavior. He said Marcus would use my college fund, the one my mother had started before she died. He said Marcus would go to Penn State using my scholarship, my recommendations, my life. He said it was all arranged. He said this was how it had to be. I asked him why. I'll never forget asking him that, my voice breaking, tears streaming down my face. Why would you do this to me? And he looked me dead in the eye and said, because Marcus is her son, and if I don't do this, I'll lose her. I'm sorry, Daniel, but I can't be alone again. I just can't. Then he hung up the phone and walked away. And I sat there in that visitation room screaming at him through the glass until the guards dragged me back to my cell. The public defender they assigned me was overworked and underpaid. When I tried to tell him I was innocent, that my father had framed me, he looked at me with dead eyes and said, "Kid, everyone in here says they're innocent. The evidence against you is solid. Take the plea deal. 3 years, maybe out in 2 with good behavior. If you go to trial, you're looking at 10 to 15. I had no money for a better lawyer. I had no one to turn to. My father had systematically cut me off from my mother's side of the family over the years, claiming they blamed him for her death. I had friends, but they were kids like me with no resources and no power, and the evidence really was damning. My jacket, my car with gunpowder residue, witnesses who identified my general description. I was trapped, so I took the plea. I pled guilty to a crime I didn't commit, and the judge sentenced me to 4 years in state prison. 4 years of my life stolen, so my stepbrother could go to college. Prison changes you. I don't care how strong you think you are, how tough, how resilient. 4 years in that place rewires your brain in ways you can't undo. I was 22.